80,000 people screaming. The sound echoes through stone. It vibrates in your chest. Blood stains the sand. Weapons lie broken. And in the center, a man stands alone, waiting to die or to become something greater than himself. But here's the real question. Why would an entire civilization gather to watch this? Why would an empire build a place designed for death? Because this was never just entertainment. It was control, a system, a structure, a machine built to manage millions of people. This is the story of the Colosseum. It begins after one of the darkest periods in Roman history, the reign of Nero, a ruler obsessed with himself. He built the Domus Aurea, the Golden House, a palace so vast it included artificial lakes, private gardens, even entire landscapes inside the city. But this luxury had a cost. Rome paid for it. Taxes rose, resources vanished, and while the emperor lived surrounded by gold, the people lived in uncertainty. Then came fire. A great fire consumed large parts of Rome. To this day, historians debate its cause, but for the people, the truth didn't matter. They needed someone to blame, and Nero became that symbol. Trust collapsed, fear spread, and soon after, the empire followed. Civil war erupted. Generals fought for power. Rome entered a year of chaos. 4 emperors in a single year. Think about that. 4 rulers in 1 year.
This wasn't stability. This was collapse. And from that collapse rose a man who would change everything, Vespasian. He was not born into luxury. He was not a symbol of excess. He was a soldier, disciplined, calculated, patient. And he understood something deeply important. An empire is not controlled by force alone. It is controlled by perception. If people believe in stability, they remain calm. If they feel part of something greater, they remain loyal. So Vespasian made a decision that was both brilliant and dangerous. He would give the people something they could not ignore. First, he erased Nero's legacy. The artificial lake of the Golden House was drained. The private paradise of one man was destroyed. And in its place, something new would rise. Something public, something massive. The Colosseum, a symbol of Rome, not as a ruler's playground, but as a shared experience. But there was a deeper layer, because building something like this required unimaginable resources, and Rome had just come out of war. So where did the money come from? The answer lies in blood and conquest. Just years before construction began, Rome crushed a massive rebellion in Judea. The victory brought immense wealth back to Rome: gold, silver, sacred objects, and tens of thousands of prisoners. This was not just a military victory, it was an economic injection. Historians believe this war financed the Colosseum. In Roman currency, sesterti, the cost likely reached hundreds of millions. But money was only part of the equation. Labor came from the defeated. Thousands of prisoners were forced into construction. They cut stone under the sun. They carried materials across massive distances. They built walls they would never sit inside. Imagine that, building a monument for the people who conquered you. Every arch, every corridor, every stone, paid for with human effort and suffering. Construction began around 72 AD, and what followed was one of the most impressive engineering achievements of the ancient world. The Colosseum rose quickly. In less than a decade, it transformed from foundation to finished structure. Roman engineers used concrete, a revolutionary material for its time. They combined it with stone and a system of arches that distributed weight efficiently. This allowed them to build higher, stronger, faster. The structure could hold between 50,000 and 80,000 spectators, and it was designed with precision. Entrances allowed crowds to move in and out rapidly. Seating reflected social hierarchy.
The closer you were to the arena, the higher your status. This wasn't just a building, it was organized society in physical form. But the true genius of the Colosseum was not what people saw, it was what they didn't see. Beneath the arena was a hidden world, the hypogeum, a network of tunnels, chambers, and mechanisms, dark, confined, alive with movement. This is where the illusion was created. Wooden elevators powered by human strength could lift cages and platforms to the surface. Workers below would turn capstans, massive rotating mechanisms, pulling ropes with coordinated force. Above them, the audience waited. And then, without warning, the ground would open. A lion would appear, a bear, a gladiator, or an entire scene. What looked like chaos was actually precision, timing, control, engineering. The Colosseum didn't just host violence, it staged it. And more importantly, it controlled emotion. Because the most powerful feeling in that arena was not excitement, it was anticipation. What will happen next? That question kept 80,000 people watching. At the center of it all were the gladiators.
They were not just fighters, they were performers. Some were slaves, some were prisoners of war, but others chose this life. Why? Because in a world with limited opportunity, this was a path to fame, to money, to freedom. They trained in specialized schools. They learned different fighting styles. They became characters, heroes, villains, survivors. And here's the truth. Not every fight ended in death. Gladiators were investments. Trained fighters were valuable assets. Killing them too quickly meant losing money. So fights were often controlled. But the illusion of death was always there, because that illusion made everything feel real. And then there was the crowd. They didn't just watch, they participated. Through gestures, they could influence the outcome, life or death, in a single moment. And above them all sat the emperor, watching, silent, observing thousands of people, deciding the fate of one. This was not chaos. This was power displayed. A system where people felt in control while being controlled. Because if you give people the illusion of choice, they stop questioning reality. And that is one of the most powerful psychological tools ever created. But even machines like this do not last forever. As centuries passed, Rome began to weaken. Economic strain, political instability, the games became less frequent, the crowds grew smaller, and eventually, the Colosseum fell silent. Earthquakes damaged its structure. Its stones were removed and reused across the city. Churches, palaces, walls. The Colosseum became a quarry, a ruin, a shadow of what it once was. And yet, it never disappeared. Today, it still stands in Rome, broken, worn, scarred by time, but standing. A reminder of what humans are capable of building. Not just in stone, but in influence. Because the Colosseum was never just architecture. It was psychology. It was storytelling. It was control. And it leaves us with a question that still matters today. Was it a masterpiece of engineering or a monument to human brutality? The answer is both. And maybe the most uncomfortable truth is this. The Colosseum was not unique. It was simply the first, perfected version of something much bigger. A machine that captures attention, controls emotion, and keeps people watching. And if you think about it, we may still be building those machines today.